Good morning, everybody. I'll call the MMSD Commission meeting to order. We have Commissioner Clark absent, Commissioner Meyer by virtual, and then all the rest are in person. So, welcome to all our guests. Cassie, would you go through the virtual meeting guidance, please?
Good morning, Commissioners, members of the public, and staff. To help us have a smooth meeting, I'm going to review just a few decorum rules for all. While the Commission and staff are in person, we are still offering a Zoom option so members of the public can attend. If you are attending virtually and would like to speak, you can do so during appearances by the public. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube, and the public chat has been disabled, but you can still send messages to the host if need be. Finally, Commissioners, please use your microphones while speaking and make sure your voice is directed towards the mic. When you're not speaking, please ensure your mic is off so others can utilize the mics. As a reminder, only 3 of the table mics can be live at a time. Also, please state your name before speaking for those who may be joining us via Zoom. Those are the decorum rules of the District Commission. Thank you for following them, and let's have a great meeting.
Thank you, Cassie. Amanda's got a couple announcements.
Good morning, Commissioners. So just 2 announcements this morning. First, at the very tail end of the last Commission meeting, there was a question about potentially shifting the May 2026 dates to accommodate the Memorial Day holiday weekend. When we built the 2026 schedule, we did look at the past few years and if there were any attendance issues with that meeting, and there were not. So the 2026 Commission schedule will remain as was shared in last meetings packet. So as a reminder, a slight shift in October and in November for those dates. So, and I know Cassie had sent those out already. So. Second announcement is that on Thursday, December 11th, we will be hosting a special separate study session, so we don't have a previously scheduled commission meeting that day, but you will be getting a calendar request later today. With both new and somewhat new and tenured commissioners, we are hosting a public affairs study session on the Commission's role as a public-facing communicator and district representative, which helps to support Eric's goal to tell the story of the district. So this will be facilitated by our community relations partner, Lindsay Scheidel. She works a lot with school boards and nonprofits and other boards on these sort of things. And basically, she's going to help us practice simple messaging and plain language approaches to meetings, partner and community member conversations, and public interactions. It'll be a collaborative learning session to help support everyone's existing communication style and really help amplify your role as a commissioner in telling the story of the district. This will be an in-person only meeting just based on the content and the activities that Lindsay has planned. It will be a noticed meeting as well. We'll begin at 7:30 that morning, and it'll run till 10. Some snacks and some coffee, so don't worry about that. And look for a calendar hold later today.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Let's see, that takes us to the consent calendar, where we've got the meeting minutes from the 11th. We have the cash statement operating fund, 1 sanitary approval for the Village of Cottage Grove, the old farm golf course, and then approved transaction amount and professional services agreement amendment for pump station 10, force main repairs. Any questions on any of those items? Dan?
Commissioner Paltz, just 2 questions. Why do we have so much money in Wells Fargo when the interest rate is very low versus the state local government investment pool? If you could get an answer for that over time. And then the other question was, on the charge for viewing the review fee, has anybody looked at that, if we should be raising that? I'm assuming we're basically trying to break even on it, but $1,400 seems like not much time for anybody to look at things. So, I'm assuming you review that every so many years, but those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dan. We'll have staff get back to you, maybe the next meeting, Commission. Let's see. Do we have a motion on the consent calendar?
Commissioner Lytle, I'll move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Lytle,
Commissioner Freeze, second.
second by Commissioner Freeze. Patrick beat Greg by a second. Okay, motion by Commissioner Lytle, second by Commissioner Freeze. All in favor of approving the consent calendar, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None, motion carries. Okay, that takes us to the topics today. We have one topic, which is the public hearing and discussion on the proposed 2026 operating capital projects and debt service budgets. So what I'm going to do, I'll open the public hearing and see if there's anyone in the room or online that have any comments. Going once, going twice. Oh, Dan. We can wait for the discussion if you want.
I'll wait for the discussion.
Yeah.
Let everybody know I'm also here as the town of Dunn,
Oh, okay.
so,
So if you have town of Dunn questions, or if they just kind of meld together.
we'll just meld them together.
Okay. Okay, so we'll do that, take that up at discussion. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and we'll move into discussion. So Dan?
Thank you. I guess, I know a lot of people spent a lot of time and energy on this lovely budget. Thank them for, I've done a lot of budgets in my life, and I think we need to take the budget next year into the 2000s. We're a little bit behind. We should be budgeting balance sheet and the cash flow, because right now I can't tell if you will be short on cash during the year at all, or if you have to borrow money. Maybe you know that, but I can't see that from the information that you've sent us. Questions I have specifically, I spent, as I talked to Tom, I've spent a lot of time doing this. My computer doesn't like me. First question is, I can't tie the closing balances to the audit. Like if you look at the 24 closing balance on the bottom, the end, can't tie that to the audit. I'm assuming you should be able to. So, you don't have to give me these answers right now. Back to me on them. And also, if you look at the capital and debt tabs you have, or tables, why are we leaving excess reserve there? Lowering our assuming that the one that you published isn't the same as the one that you gave out to the towns and stuff, because that one didn't foot in a couple different places. It didn't, the numbers didn't go cross foot and foot. There's some addition errors in there. One that you published for us, the fancy 70-page one, it didn't work the same as the one that you sent out to the towns. It wasn't that some of the numbers were a little bit different. It was like the budget, stuff like that. If you want to pull it up, I can just show you one thing.
The one we sent to the towns, what are you referring to?
You sent me an Excel spreadsheet that was on a piece of paper. Also, someone sent me an
Forecast of what? Service charges? We're talking about the forecast for service charges on a community-by-community level?
yes. Then you also sent out a spreadsheet that showed the actual expenses. I didn't bring it with me.
You're going to have to forgive us. We actually don't know what you're referring to right now.
Can you pull up the budget that you created in the fancy 70-page one?
Sure. Let's see if we can.
I got in the mail, I got a thing explaining budget and then pages.
So you are talking about the required tables that we published, so Appendix A. Appendix A, yes. Okay.
The numbers don't tie to the thing that you sent me.
So we're talking Appendix A, and then you're talking about the forecast that you received for Town of Dawn. No.
You also mailed me what the budget was. Someone sent it to me. I don't know how I got it.
Right. So we are required to send the Appendix A of the budget, to all of the customer communities. We also noticed that in the newspaper, there may have been one or two number changes after we published it. It does have a as of date on it, which I think was like August 19th or something. I'm getting there, this document. So this is, Commissioner Pultz, what you were referencing.
Go like to page 24 or something like that. It's approximate. It might be 20. They go to the well, if you look at column 25 budget and budget estimate, you'll see on the operating expenses, it says 25 million, and the other one says 24 million, but the totals are the same. The numbers don't work.
I can't help you because I can't see what is on the screen right now.
I'm assuming the one on the right is correct, or is it the one on the left? I mean, it's $1 million different.
So Eric Dundee, Executive Director, I think these are comments that we should be taking back and not trying to solve today.
No, that's...
I do want to make sure we are understanding that those columns, the one column we're talking about is the 2025 budget, which was done in basically August of 24.
But is that the right numbers? That's what I'm questioning.
Okay, so
Is first of all, the 25 budget correct? Then, if that's correct, then the 24, or then the 25 updated estimates?
yep,
That's wrong. One of the two isn't, they can't be the same when they have different numbers. You see what I mean?
Well,
They say 63 million is the total expenditures on both of them, but the numbers aren't the same.
Okay.
So which
Okay.
one is correct?
okay, yep, we'll take that back.
I'm sorry I looked into this deeply.
I finally understand what the question is. Let me see if I can rephrase it for everyone. We're talking about two different, okay, so let me give a context for everyone here. We are talking about the primary statutorily required table for municipal budgeting. These columns here are required in statute. We're discussing the column that includes the 2025 budget as adopted, which is what it was, and then the column that is the estimated expenditures and revenues for 2025 actual. So that is an estimate of what will happen. And the question is, why are we estimating for 2025 amounts that are the same as the budget for 2025? Wouldn't
No,
you?
That's one question. I haven't gotten that. This one is just the numbers don't work. They just don't foot across. Just someone needs to tell me, is the expenditures in the budget 25 less, or the one in the right? Which one is correct? That's all I'm asking. It's a calculation error.
Bill, if I may, this is Commissioner Meyer. I think I'm spotting the one spot where those two columns differ. They're identical as far as I've quickly surmised, except for one line, which is off by $1 million. There's a 25 million and there's a 24 million in one. Let me get in.
Right.
On my screen, it's also small, so I'm struggling to see it. But
that number flows down also to how do you calculate 26?
I will say it may have been an editing error on my behalf. So we'll just screw that up. Yeah.
I'm just saying which one is correct.
Right. We'll figure that out.
operations and maintenance line is where there's $1 million difference. 25 million in 2025 budget and 24 million in change, and in the 2025 total estimated. And yet they totaled the same at the bottom, which can't be. So there's a math error that Dan has rightly pointed out.
So that's that question. Then you got into the second one I was gonna ask you. You're saying that you're still good with the 25 budget at $3 million. Don't see any changes, didn't change one number in there.
Okay, so let me go back to giving the answer I was giving before. The task of that fourth column is for us to give the best estimate that we are capable of doing at the time we put this budget together of what actuals will be in 2025. And it was my judgment that the best estimate we have at this point in time for 2025 spending is in fact the budget itself. As we get closer to the end of the year, we will have a more updated budget, but I did not feel it was justified to include that estimate in this table. The role that column is playing in putting the budget together is helping us estimate what the closing balance in the operating fund will be at the end of 2025. That's the task of making a forecast for 2025 actuals. One of the functions of having a reserves policy is to allow you to have some leeway back and forth. So just to repeat, the decision I made in putting this budget together, and this is similar to what we've done in the past, is to ask what is the best forecast we can make at this moment for 2025? And again, my judgment was the best forecast we can make is the budget itself. So that's what's going on there. If you compare that to the capital budget and the debt service budget tables, you'll see that we did update the 2025 forecast. And the reason for that is because we have much more specific project level information on the capital side. We do have more information about that we can use to improve that forecast. So it's a question of what information is available to us. On the capital and debt side, we feel that we're able to do more of an update on that forecast. On the operating side, because of various reasons having to do with the predictability of operating spending, we felt that it was best to stick with the budget.
Just Commissioner Freeze, just a quick follow-up on that, Bill. For when you say putting this budget together, I know it's the end of September now, but you're starting this budget when? Back in end of June, July, to start to put these numbers together?
Correct.
Thank you.
One thing that the one thing that bothered me the most was when I compared the 24 actuals to the 26 proposed budget, the expenses excluding transfers up 27%. To me, that is a lot. I mean, it just is. I mean, for example, you see the ecosystem is up $1 million, engineering is up $1 million, enterprise services up $1 million. Executive director in that area is up $600,000. Human resources up $400,000. This seems like 27% over 2 years is just astronomical. Is there a way of sharpening the pencil, get that down a little bit? It's just, I mean, that's just, I'm looking at the numbers, and maybe you were so under-fenced in 24, but it's just, how did it go up so much? $9 million, 2 years. I looked at some other budgets that I could see out there in the state and in the area. Nobody has an increase as high as we do.
So for clarification, you're talking about, operating
I'm just looking at
expenses,
operating, yep.
not capital?
Nope, not capital, not transfers to capital, not transfers to debt, just the operating expenses. Went up $9 million in 2 years.
Excuse me, is that actual operating expenses in 2024 compared to budget?
She just showed up there. I was looking at the 24 column, the 26 column.
So it's actual operating expenses 2024 compared to proposed 2026 budget.
I don't know if you did something different in the way you accounted for 24 versus 26. Right now, it's up 27%. So you can, you're not going to explain it to me right now, but it's just need to, their way of sharpening the pencil and getting the, because I think I looked at Green Bay and their increase is like 2.5%. Man.
So for clarity on this, I'm going to pose this as open discussion, but it'll be something for us to go back to as staff. Bill, I'm just wondering, when did we make that change with expenses of our staff with capital projects being all transferred to the operating budget? I'm leaving that, you don't have to answer it now, but there is changes we've made in the difference between how we were doing capital project planning and operating budget, but we'll come back with more information.
And I'm assuming the 24 numbers are audited numbers. I just assuming that. I don't know what else to assume. And then I'm still worried personally about the $1 million for Corona. I don't see it in the budget. I've been told it's not been accrued in the past, so where is it? In theory, we're paying it out most likely 26. So where is it?
We are talking, okay, let's get some context here. So as part of the decision of the district to redirect the Badger Mill Creek outfall to Badfish Creek, which was taken time ago, 2 years, 1.5 years, the commission authorized spending a total of $1 million for various projects in the Badger Mill Creek watershed as chosen by stakeholders. You're all familiar with this. That $1 million is included in the capital project for Badger Mill Creek phosphorus compliance. That capital project was originally very large because we thought we would have to do tertiary treatment. It has come down once we realized we were not going to be doing tertiary treatment. That project is covering both the $1 million, the various monitoring work we've done in the creek, legal services, I believe, various things associated with achieving that compliance strategy. This question came up earlier. We talked with our comptroller and an accounting team. I'm not an accountant, but under governmental accounting, representing that $1 million in a planned capital project is the appropriate way to record where it is. So
but I don't see it in your capital project, and I differ from.
Fine.
But where is it in the projects? The projects you have here is not there.
Eric Dundee, Executive Director. So the project is there. That $1 million is not detailed in a year for that budget, for that capital project detail, because that is an undetermined delivery. So.
But right now, it's not in here. $1 million is not in here.
The $1 million is in the project summary. So if you would go to the back of the budget document, you would see.
The project,
but it's not in the CIP table that you would look at in the budget.
So right now, you don't have it budgeted to be paid out in 2026.
Correct. We don't, that is not a decision that is made.
But there's been a resolution and designated funds by the board or the commission.
I would argue that is not true.
So let me talk a little bit about this. The context that's needed here is to understand commission policy on how capital project authorizations work. Expenditures for capital projects are capped at a total project level. I forget which commission policy it is. Every individual capital project has a total project cost that is authorized for that project. That authorization is independent of time. It is not on a year-by-year basis. It's on a lifetime of the project basis. Whatever table people are looking at here, there are various tables that describe our capital projects. So there is one that lists total project authorization for every project. The Badger Mill Creek phosphorus compliance has the total authorization for that project in it. There are other tables that provide estimates of spending by project by year. I use the word estimate there deliberately. When we put annual figures for capital projects, we are forecasting, estimating what will be spent in a given year, but the control over projects is set at the total project cost level. So the fact that there is a total project cost item with more than $1 million in it for Badger Mill Creek compliance, that is the authorization we have that incorporates the $1 million for the stakeholder group.
So, but right now, if we pay out $1 million in 2026, it's not budgeted. Is that correct?
I don't understand that question.
Right now, it's not in the 36 million for capital projects.
The total budget for 2026 for capital projects is the sum of our estimated spending for all projects together. It is understood in how we manage our capital budgets that that total is the sum of various forecasts. Some projects will end up spending more in 2026, others less, depending on sort of the timing of capital projects. In the event that we spend more than $1 million, or that we spend the entire $1 million for the stakeholder groups in 2026, yes, that project will have spent more than we had forecast for it. But whether that results in an exceedance of the total budget for the capital projects budget depends on what happens with the spending in other projects. Generally speaking, I am not aware of the last time we exceeded the capital budget in total because of this phenomenon of some things being less and other things being greater.
But if everything else goes here as planned, the 36 million over budget, correct?
That is correct, as a truism. If we spent everything in the capital budget and then more, we would exceed the capital budget amount.
So why don't you, so you're just saying that million is a buffer? I just don't understand why it's not on a line. The line says $50,000.
Amanda, could you bring up page 25 so the commission can see it's the line D02. I think this is what Commissioner Pulse is relating to, that the 2026 anticipated expenditure for the Badger Mill Creek is $50,000. He's saying, shouldn't that be 1 million and maybe plus change for other expenses?
So what I have just pulled up here has that same information. This is the actual project summary in the CIP.
Right, but for the budget for 2026, it shows $50,000, correct?
Because when we were putting the capital budget together, our best guess, given everything that is going on with litigation, et cetera, is that it is unlikely that we would be issuing that $1 million in 2026. However, under commission rules regarding the budgeting for individual projects, we do have the authority to spend that in 26 if we need to, and we feel it is unlikely that that would cause us to go over the 2026 total capital budget. But if we did, we would have the option to request an amendment. Another point that's relevant here is, regardless of the timing of that $1 million going out the door, we have incorporated the $1 million in our cash flow projection. So we would be able to absorb with minimal, if any, disruption in cash flow or service charge requirements, an earlier issuance of that $1 million if that were to occur.
don't agree with what you're doing, but I'm just moving on. When you do get the budget approved at the end, we do need to have this pushed back to do it monthly so we can do our budget to actual for 26 when we do quarterly stuff. So we can see where it is. You can't just, I'm sure you couldn't do this on a monthly basis budget. But when we do the first quarter versus actual versus budget, I want to see what your budgeted versus actual for the first 3 months, not just divide by 12 times 3. You're having more revenue in the summer months than the winter months, I'm assuming, and stuff like that. So I'd like to see that. Or that's what you should do.
Can I piggyback on this one real quick? Just, I mean, I think I see where you're getting hung up, Dan, and your accountant is showing, which is good. We like that you're an accountant and bring this level of scrutiny to it. But I'll ask a so what question of Bill. If you were to change this expected expenditure for 2026 on Badgerville Creek phosphorus compliance to $1 million, would that bump all the way down to the bottom line, change the capital budget, and change the entire budget? I assume it would, but I wanted to ask.
If when we had developed the capital budget, we had recorded or estimated $1 million of spending for this project in 2026, and had kept every single other thing equal in terms of capital budget spending, we would have increased the total capital budget for 2026 by the corresponding difference between $1 million and whatever that number is there that I can't read. And we would have, that would have resulted in the capital reserve being that much lower, since the capital reserve in the actual introduced budget is above the minimum. We would not have made any further changes in service charge revenue or borrowing or any other aspect of finances. The actual effect of showing an additional $1 million in the 2026 budget would be to lower the capital reserve. And that, of course, would be the actual effect if, in fact, if it turns out that we do spend that $1 million earlier.
That's helpful. Thank you, Bill.
And then I think some other people have the same conclusion is we think the potential new hires and new hierarchy too top heavy. We're spending a little bit too much. I don't say that you don't need staff, but I think pyramid is like this and not like this. Straight up and down, you're not delegating and stuff like that the way you should be.
Yeah, this topic I would like to respond to right away. This has actually came up a few times, and I don't know if it's how the new organizational structure is shown, but it's actually a -1 in the amount of upper level management. We're going to have 14 manager director positions, and currently we have 15. If you look at that. So I'm actually interested, maybe we'll talk about this offline later, to try to understand what the count looks like for people, what they're looking at, that hierarchy looks like. Maybe we need to show this differently or explain it a little different.
Yeah, it just, the way I counted, I sent an email to somebody, I don't remember who it was, but if I counted the way that chart that you had, it went up. And maybe it's presentation, I don't know, but that's all I got is what I have. So I guess to summarize, you're going to figure out the 25-24 issue, $1 million thing. See if the closing balance is equal to the audited statements. You're going to see is there a way that we could reduce the future reserves, since we have reserves, and we're trying to get the 4.7 down because it seems very high. Is there a way of getting the 27% increase over 2 years? You know, you might have an apples and oranges thing, but let's try to get apples and apples and see what it really is. I still think you should relook at the expenses for 25. You didn't change anything. I think change the revenue. I think you should look at the expenses and see if there's anything to tighten there. Also reduce the fees going forward. Staffing issues, and we need a monthly budget when this is after everything else is done. Sorry, I've looked into this a lot deeper than probably anybody has in the past, but trying to make things better, not worse. I'm just asking questions to understand it. And next year, I think we can make it and take it to the next level where, because right now, Bill said, you just said you have the $1 million in your cash flow. We don't see that anywhere. Cash is the most important king. It'd be really nice to see how you got that in there, but you didn't put it in here. So, sorry for all the lengthiness. We'll be quiet now.
Thanks, Dan. I think what I would like is, you know, there's some things in the budget that are commission policy, some that are statute, and if maybe the finance subcommittee, when you're going to be going through the policies at some point, you can kind of weed that out and change or remove or add or even get rid of some, and come up with something more, because I do agree it is confusing to a layperson looking at page 25 and you look at Badger Mill Creek and you're expecting only $50,000 to be spent this year, but if by chance we need that $1 million, but I also understand what they're saying. When you're dealing with capital projects, money's always going like this. So, yeah, I know what it's a known expense that we're going to have at some point in time. Okay, anybody else? What's more work on your committee, Greg?
So, Commissioner Murphy, so in response to the comment about the new positions that are being requested and the org chart, the partial org chart that was presented as part of the budget presentation at the last meeting, Eric, you said that the net impact of the proposed budget is a reduction of one management position. Is that what you said?
Yes. So, in our current structure right now, we have, executive director, an executive office, and then we have directors and managers. So if you take the difference of what is existing versus what is in the new Baker Tilly proposed that I'm recommending, yeah, there's a -1 there. So there's one less, I'm calling it district management team.
Right.
Just to use my words in there.
Thank you. And as I've reviewed the budget presentation last meeting, I did have the same question that some of the commission members had about the number of management positions compared to non-management positions, and it was a partial organizational chart. So, I mean, we weren't seeing the entire org chart. We weren't seeing, where all of the line staff were reporting up through the top level of the organization. And I don't know if I'm requesting that or not, but helpful to know that the net impact is a reduction of one management position. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so thank you, Dan, again. We'll get answers to these questions at the next meeting, and then the commission can make a decision if it wants to. For example, I think the 27% is a valid point, and we'll see more information on where that came from. I know we've had issues in the past about that allocation of staff time to capital projects, and that's what led to, I think, the budget problem that we had. Was it 23? Maybe 22? Yeah. So we'll get more information on that, then we can make decisions and, provide, information to staff to tweak or amend the budget, and then come back with that change for the following meeting where we would approve it. Okay? If anybody else has anything in between, please contact, Bill or Eric. Your comments or questions or ideas? Okay, so, let's see here. That will conclude the, topic. So we'll move to the executive director update, where we've got, Bill has something, and then Bill has 2 items, and Amanda has 1 item.
Right, Bill Walker, Deputy Executive Director. At the end of the last meeting, Commissioner Clark asked for additional information on 2 items. The first was information on our liability insurance as a district. Jim Reinerson, Comptroller, has prepared a memo for me looking at what our coverages are and the process that we have for reviewing. And he also listed some issues that he thinks we should look at going forward. I will forward that memo to commissioners later today. The other question from Commissioner Clark was for some more detail on IT modernization. Bettina Culver, Dana Reed, and I have talked about that, and we feel like it would be better to do that, provide that information in the form of 1 or more presentations. So we're putting together some background, some detail for presentation to the Commission on IT modernization and the overall IT strategic plan. So look for that in future meetings.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Amanda?
Yes, Cassie's gonna pull this up for me. All right. All right, so I am going to give a brief update on DRIPS. That's DRIPS with 2 I's, which is the education and outreach piece of our inflow and infiltration I&I program. This has been a key deliverable for communities that they've been interested in asking for in relation to I&I. There we go. Come on, there we go. First of all, I have the privilege of presenting this, but I cannot take credit for this, so I did want to take a little stop here and give kudos to both Jen Hurlebus, who has been managing and spearheading our I&I program. She's been working on this since actually I started here about 6 years ago. What you're going to see on the next few slides, we did work with HDR consulting firm on the initial materials, but then the other kudos goes to Amy Steger, who is my communications colleague or communications and marketing specialist, who did a ton of work to update the materials, build a campaign, and get them into inboxes starting last week. All right, so DRIPS, what is this? DRIPS stands for Disconnect and Reduce Inflow and Infiltration in Private Sewers, hence the double I's. Jen had convened a customer community advisory committee a number of years ago, and one of the things that was of great interest to all of them was education and outreach for their communities. Communities have different levels of I&I and different reasons for I&I. Some of it is with private owners. Some of it is within their own local collection systems. But the crux of it is helping people understand what I&I is. So this has been a multi-year effort, but last week we rolled out the DRIPS Communications Toolkit, which has been a prime ask. It was sent to all customer communities. All the commissioners got that as well as partners and organizations with similar interests. So this communications toolkit, I'm not going to read all of these to everyone, but it has 10 different topics, a variety of different materials. They are all expertly branded, and we've written them so they're all very user-friendly in language. Amy developed the campaign and created all the individual assets, so several weeks of work. And as you can see here, we've created and are providing to folks a range of materials from billing inserts to blog articles to copy for community newsletters to help get the materials out. Now they are being sent, as you know, if you checked your inbox last Thursday, I believe it was, sent out via biweekly emails with 4 emails, 2 to 3 topics each. We're also doing weekly social posts and tagging communities to encourage resharing, and we got some immediate reshares and really good feedback last week with the introduction, which has been super exciting. And thanks for doing this as well. And it will go out to our district public newsletter next month. Drop the QR code and the URL here. Always encourage commissioners to make use or make sure that their representative communities are aware of those materials. Educating folks on I&I doesn't just help district infrastructure, but it helps the whole system. So we are excited to have this out. This is a key deliverable for us, and look forward to keep iterating on it and sharing it with our communities. And with that, unless there are any questions, turn it over.
Oh, Dan?
I'd like to thank you for this a lot, because we're using that flyer you created to send out to all our, the town of Dunn thing. Because people don't understand, especially the sump pumps, they think if they put it into their sink or whatever, that it magically goes away, but that's just water coming here. So I thank you for doing that, and I don't know if it'll help, but it's a start to educate them.
Absolutely, and that was our goal in this, is to provide this as a service with these materials.
I think we all wanted that, and that's, it's a nice flyer. It's easy to put out, as back and forth, 2 pages type thing. I think it'll help a lot for that, so thank you.
Yes, and I will make sure that feedback gets to Jen and Amy appropriately.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Let's see here. Alan, you're up with operations report. Nice to see you again.
Thank you, Commissioner Hovell. It's good to be back. Alan Grooms, Operations Manager for the district, and I'll be presenting the September Operations Report, which is actually our August data, August plant performance. So sometimes I say these are kind of boring reports. A lot of the indicators are kind of what we would expect seasonally. Most of them are in kind of the shaded areas, or in the case of chloride, below. So it kind of indicates it's within, kind of the historical range. The exceptions there being phosphorus. Solids is up a little bit, but phosphorus is above. That kind of goes hand in hand. Those two kind of go together. We had a little bit of an excursion, and that's kind of typical when we get kind of that July, August, and it warms up and the flows come down a little bit. We get that the biological phosphorus removal system puts phosphorus in the solids, and so when the solids go up, the phosphorus goes up with that. So those numbers have come back in line with cooler temperatures. So it's not uncommon to see that. We don't love it, but you look to manage it. You don't always get things you love. The other notable thing I would point out is the fecal coliform bacteria count, 292. We've gotten quite used to with the I'll call it the new system. We're in our 4th year of operating the system that went in with the liquid processing phase 1. So I still call it new, but it's 20% through its life, I suppose, if you assume a 20-year lifespan on it. We're getting to the point here where we're getting in through still running with original bulbs, and so part of the issue we're seeing here in late July and then into August, the numbers started coming up on that. And what we're kind of seeing is these are a different type of bulb than our old system, so we're kind of figuring out what the maintenance frequency looks like on that, what's the replacement frequency. And admittedly, we've maybe got some staff that really wants to kind of stretch the dollars, which is laudable, but we don't want to do that at the threat of making me sleep less well, worrying about the permit. So we saw those come up. It's like, hey, it's time to start rotating these off because we're running bulbs on one bank. What we do to manage the maintenance on that, we run a lot of hours on one channel with the other ones coming on as needed. And so it was looking like we were kind of gaining that experience of at what point those start to show signs of needing to be retired. And so that's what you're seeing there. We've altered how we're operating those channels and working on replacing those bulbs. So those were all budgeted processes. They're all in there. It's just a matter of how far can we go before we start to see this, and how does it look like when they start to age out. So probably a lot more than I usually talk about on this slide, but are there any questions?
Yeah, just one. I recall the last presentation where you weren't here, and the numbers looked much better. By the way.
Is that a hint?
No, not at all, not at all. But it's as I recall, it was the fecal coli was kind of in the green area, as was everything else, or below. And this is, and that was, probably, what was that? That was July data? So it's, up considerably, and it was, but, August was probably much drier than what we saw. I don't know if that had any impact or not, but just interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably not so much in a single month, although the higher flows we had in July and early August, that results in more run time. So as you approach, it isn't, these don't work, they're relying on a very specific wavelength of UV light or radiation being put out by these bulbs. There's a lot of detail goes into it, but there's a life on these bulbs that they're guaranteed for, and so we're actually beyond that on some of these. So it's like, and often you can run beyond that, but it isn't like a light bulb in your house that it's out, it's out, and you fix it. It's these, they start to degrade in their performance, and so the system can compensate for a while by ramping up the power output on that to compensate. But you get to a point where it looks like everything's running fine, but they're just not putting out enough of that energy in that correct wavelength, and so that's how they start to fail. So I guess we've developed a little bit of experience on that and some guidance there for our operating staff. The other thing is, and this is a very simplified, our permit actually has a lot more detail to it, and our operating data that we're looking at, daily and weekly, as an operations staff is much more detailed. And so we did start to see those numbers, a couple of excursions there in July that, popped up and then seemed like they came back in line. So it's like, oh, we need to watch this. And so, here in August, it definitely popped up. And spoiler for next month, it'll be back in line.
Alan, can you take a moment and remind our viewers at home of what the shaded areas mean and then what that dashed line means in the context of these dashboards? Yeah, the shaded area is basically, it represents the last 3 years' performance, one standard deviation around that. So that's what that area is. It's not a perfect it's really just meant to give kind of a gauge over how we've done over the last 3 years for a particular parameter and how that looks. So, if we're within that boundary, it's fairly typical performance, not necessarily for that specific month, but for a 3-year period, versus if you're above or below that, it would be better or worse performance. So the dashed line would be the actual limit in effect for that particular month, which, as I'm indicating, in some cases, and actually phosphorus is a good example. Phosphorus, we depict that as a 0.6 milligram per liter average. That's actually a 6-month rolling average. It isn't even a monthly average in that particular case. So, we average, showing that above there at 0.5 for 1 month. That isn't even the same as saying we're we're not a tenth of a milligram per liter away from that average. We're actually, the 6-month average is a lot, is lower than that. So, but all of these nuances that gives, how do you depict this, in a simple way that, basic presentation to the audience without getting deep into the weeds. And as you hear me talk, that I'll go deep into the weeds if you ask me to. So sorry about that. Any other questions on this?
Yeah, Alan, I just had a quick question. So, for the UV, is as total suspended solids, this is just a total geek question. As your total suspended solids would tend to go up, does your UV performance or your fecal tend to go up as well, right? Because the particulates do they limit the effectiveness of your UV, or are we beyond? Are the particulates so small that the UV, that they are not related as much as I would think?
A question on the particulates or the solids impacting on the UV. Yeah, it's a great question, Commissioner Freeze. It actually does have a big impact. Our system is, this newer system is, I shouldn't call it intelligent because that implies it's thinking, but it's taking in a lot of parameters. And so one of the parameters that is input into it is turbidity of the influent water. And so the solids impact that turbidity quite a bit, but you can have the turbidity drop and it still looks fairly clear. It's, it could be some really fine colloids, or even sometimes just color can affect that. If we've got, like, the lagoon comes to mind this time of year, we start pumping back to manage the lagoon levels. There's a little bit more algae and material like that. So that can affect the turbidity, and we see that drop. And so what that does, the disinfection system, control system, has that as an input parameter, looks at that, it looks at how much flow is coming to it, and the calculation, the channels are sized very precisely. So this relies on a very specific wavelength of UV light, 254 nanometers, to be specific. And so that has to pass, every particle of water has to pass within, it's about 2.5 inches of a bulb, and for a particular amount of time. So as the flows go up, that flow is coming faster. So it's also got to adjust power for things like that. Turbidity goes down, it adjusts power up. As long as you stay within the range, the design range of the system should auto-compensate for those type of things. But as the lamps age, what it can't really compensate for is, you know, the intensity coming out of that as it starts to degrade and become less efficient. So,
Sorry, I'm just very interested now. Your old system, the one that was replaced 4 or 5 years ago, did that auto compensate, or was that kind of just a straight, the lights are on, they're doing what the lights do?
yeah, it's a great question. The old system we had was basically on-off. When we reached a certain flow, it would turn another bank on, and so it was, you know, and it was either on or it was off. And so it would sequence banks on and to compensate for that in a crude way. But in this case, it's basically the actual power draw. This is going up and down dynamically through the day and as conditions change. So comparatively, it's a lot smarter system, if you want to use that term.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. No, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you. Really interesting.
Go on.
Next slide. This is basically just the periodic update we do on just how we're doing with return to the environment, or the other parameters we do for what we're doing for resource recovery. This is on the upper left is clean water. This is water returned back to the environment. So we're right on pace to, looks like we're probably on pace to be very similar to 2024, looking at that, how we're doing on that. So we're about 2/3 of the way through the year at the end of August, and so that's about, and right in line with that 23, 24 kind of range. So looking right on track for maybe another around 40 MGD for this year. Although we could, you know, if we got a lot of rain, that would obviously change that. Biogas production also looks right on track to be in line with 2024. We're about 2/3 of the way through, and so that's, these bars are not precisely to scale, so, but that, you divided that by 2 and figured 2/3, corrected that would put you right in line with the past 2 years. So we're right on track with biogas. And then reused effluent, what that represents is what we call W4. That is water we use for things like sluicing water for the screens. Polymer make-down water is a big proportion of that. In total, it adds up to around 1 million gallons a day of water that we would, maybe not quite that. So we use that for the alternative to not having that system would be we would be buying potable water from the city, which you know, water utility might enjoy the income, but it's water that's, you know, suitable for drinking and human use, and we don't need that high quality water for this. So we use the W4. That cuts our costs down a little bit. It's very cost effective. Some of the commissioners might recall we've got a project coming up to that system's getting old enough, and it's a pretty harsh environment that it operates in. So we're upgrading that system here to do set that up to meet future use and continue good service with us. So, any questions on this slide? You guys making me make up for missing last month by talking more today. For biosolid storage at the end of August, we are, 59.9 or 60% full. They've been hauling out late summer on the wheat fields. That's, they're kind of starting to run out of there's also some sweet corn fields and things like that they do, I'm told. So we're kind of getting to that point where it's starting to really slow down until we get the corn and the soybeans start coming off, which probably be still a couple more weeks before we see that. But we're sitting in good shape comparatively on biosolid storage. Cake production, we haven't moved that since February, actually March, I believe. So that number's fixed and probably won't change this year at 620 estimated cubic yards. That's related to the flow splitter project that's under construction over here that's been disrupting our ability to pipe through there. So we had to take that offline to do that. Through-pipe production running right in line with 2023, 2024. possibly might, have a little bit, higher value than last year, but, we're still not sure on that. Then MetroGo, what this actual reflects not what's gone to the fields, but what is being produced, what's being sent to the storage tanks. So again, that's right on track to be about what 2024 numbers are. So any questions or anything else I can answer? Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Thanks, Alan. Regulatory and legal, Vanessa?
Good morning, Commissioners. Vanessa Wishart, Legal Counsel. I will do just a quick update on legal work we've done over the last month, and then 2 notes on the regulatory side of things, our regulatory report. So as far as legal work this month, it's been pretty heavy on the regulatory side. We've worked with the district on a number of pre-treatment kind of questions that are coming up for the district as they're working on updating pre-treatment permits and industrial users, and that regulatory aspect from the district side. Continuing to work on updates to the district's permit reissuance and walking through that process with the district and with DNR. We're continuing to work on items related to the Badger Mill Creek litigation, as well as some kind of early phase work on discovery with the condemnation proceedings that are ongoing. And then 2 updates on the more regulatory report side. We noted in the last regulatory report you would have seen at the last meeting that there wasn't yet a reschedule for the PFAS legislation hearings. Those have now been rescheduled, so those will be on October 7th in front of the, I think that's the hearing for the Senate Committee on Environment, or on Natural Resources, rather. And then today, actually, there is a rescheduled hearing in front of the Assembly on the anti-degradation rules that had been kind of hung up in the legislative process. Those have been revised by DNR and resubmitted to the legislature. So there's a hearing on that today, actually at 10 a.m. That's all that I have, but I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Okay, thanks, Vanessa. Okay, we have committee reports I'd passed over. So Greg, I know you guys met Monday.
We did indeed meet.
But,
Yep, and we, sorry.
Ezra, do you have a report?
Sorry, coming off mute there. I think at the moment we don't. Well, at some point we'll share some information on our choice of a consultant for the executive director performance review process. But I know
Okay.
I need to connect with Amy about that, and then we'll get that shared around.
Okay, so
Otherwise,
back
nothing
to
new.
Greg. Thanks, Ezra.
Yeah, thanks. Back to you, Greg.
Okay, sorry about that. Yes, we did meet last Monday. We have another meeting coming up in a few weeks, and so we have continued to make progress. So one of the things is we're iterating a bit on the financial note that we receive with capital project amendments or approvals that we see, and we saw that in the last commission packet. Bill did that was, I will call that version 2. Eric had done one 2 meetings ago. Bill did one last meeting. We didn't have one this meeting. He presented what I'll call another version that was not well received by the committee. Sorry about that, Bill. And so he was going to go back and try and, I think, hybridize the 2 to find one that he wouldn't have to do every one for every capital report that comes through, and staff could do it without Bill getting involved. So that's on the list. We also, Dan and I have assignments for our next meeting. I have to go through, someone mentioned, might have been you, Tom, going through all the policies. That's my job to decide for our next meeting, to decide what we're going to take up and potentially throw out. Dan is looking at quarterly, we mentioned during the budget discussion, the quarterly reports that we have kind of been asking for from a financial perspective, and what that might be, and we're working on a way to present that. Yeah, Bill is doing that. I'm sorry, I jumped. Dan is going and looking at policies from other like-sized communities, Green Bay, Des Moines, there's some other ones I think you were gonna look at, and see if they have fiscal policies that are more user-friendly, I will call it, and potentially useful. I might use that word as well than ours. So, I'm looking at ours to see what we can throw out. Dan is looking for examples, and Bill is, creating, I think, a draft of what we could see as quarterly reports. So we were busy. We had a really productive, I would say it was a really productive 2-hour meeting earlier this week. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, any future meeting schedule? Anything for, so it's in your packet, so next week, or next meeting, I should say, is we will discuss any changes we want to the budget, hear more information from staff on the questions that were raised, particularly by Dan. And then we'll make decisions, give them direction as to how to change the budget if so doing. And then the following meeting after that, the end of October, will be optional. Okay, so that takes us to closed session, which I believe we have today. So do we have a motion to go into closed session to pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute, Section 19.85, paren 1, paren G, conferring with legal counsel who's rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy with respect to Circuit Court Case Number 2024-CV-3109 and Court of Appeals Case Number 2025-AP-1725, City of Verona versus Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources.
I'll, move that we go into closed session. Commissioner Murphy, in accordance with what, President Hubble just read.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Murphy to go into closed session, second by...
Commissioner Freeze, I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Freeze. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bookland? Commissioner Freeze?
Aye.
Commissioner Hubble?
Aye.
Commissioner Lankella? Commissioner Lytle?
Aye, but note I'll be recusing myself from Verona discussions.
Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Murphy?
Aye.
Commissioner Pulse?
Aye.
You ready? Okay. So, the commission was in closed session. We had a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by, or Commissioner Freeze to go back into open session. And we had all ayes. Commissioner Meyer and Commissioner Lankala participated virtually. And roll call vote was all ayes. Everybody. So, just report, the commission had ongoing discussions regarding the Circuit Court case 2024 CV and the appeal court case 1725 with City of Verona and DNR. So that will be our report. And then any future agenda topics? Any other business? Adjournment.
Motion to adjourn, Commissioner Freeze?
Motion by Commissioner Freeze, second by
Commissioner Pope.
second by Commissioner Pauls. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you all. See you in a couple weeks.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.